Mm. Hi. Hi.
Oh my God, I can hear you.
Yes, you can.
Yay.
So it's on your end somehow, but
Yeah,
there
I
we go.
don't,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't get that. So
And we are officially live, buddy,
sweet.
because I had to do it this way. Hold on a second. I had to actually, I'm hitting the pause button on this thing because otherwise I'll hear an echo. I don't like using Zoom for this because Zoom is a pain in the ass with this, but it's what we got. It's what we got. How you doing, buddy?
Okay.
Okay. It was a journey to get here. It really, really was.
Yeah.
All
Uh,
right, folks, if you are listening to this, if you are live to this, I'm going to apologize a little bit in advance. I'm only going to be going back and forth on the Twitch stream because I'm not going to be sure if people are going to watch this or not because frankly, I have no idea. This took forever. This was 40 minutes past the scheduled start time, and there was all kinds of technical difficulties. We still don't actually know why,
nope,
Greg,
no idea. Well, because my speakers are working,
and
my
so are
headphones.
mine.
Yeah,
Right?
so
So,
I don't, still don't know.
and so I have a theory that StreamYard and Restream were connecting to another speaker or action or something going on in the system.
Yeah,
However,
okay.
fuck if I know. Fuck if
Yeah,
I know.
I don't know.
So, how you been, buddy? Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Finally, I
Yeah,
was going to be on, and then I was like exhausted when I was going to be on.
yeah, and then I
So
never heard back from you, so it's like, all right.
yeah, I forgot about responding back.
Yeah, it's like it's just I have a little rule now, and it's really simple. I don't chase anybody anymore. Like it's really like I'm open, but at the same time, I'm like if I don't hear, I just shrug, because as you know, I don't really getting guests has never been an issue for this show, but that's part of it. But it's also just I've learned that I'm not even just like people got to do what they want to do, and you got to kind of let people make their own decisions. So I let them. I just let them. But all right, let's get through the technical BS that we just had to endure. So, just for the record, I actually sang a song to Greg. He never heard it because I was doing "Running Up That Hill" because why not? Right? Oddly appropriate, I figured, considering what was going on. Um, and I'm not saying I sung it well, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not gonna make that claim because that would be a lie. But I will say this. I mean, the one thing I get to get out of doing it this way is at least I know that Zoom is a little more efficient at using Twitch.
Yeah.
Well, I've done interviews on Zoom in the past, and I found them to be a pain in the ass because they don't Twitch and Zoom do not like each other.
Oh.
They're mortal enemies. Yeah, it really is. It was such a pain in the ass to set up the Twitch initially.
Oh.
I still got my restream like key. So because you used to have to manually do it, and it was just like, oh, this is such a fucking pain in the ass. Yeah. So, but it worked. We're here.
Yeah.
We're talking. I'm gonna shut my phone off because I got my Discord is going off like crazy. So, how's life treating you besides the technical mishaps? How's it been?
I did two funerals in 2 weekends in the last 2 weekends, so I
Sorry
had
to
to
hear.
go back. Yeah, I had to deal with that. So,
Family or friends or
my stepmom and then my uncle, which was this past Friday.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that sucked. I was more close to my uncle, but yeah, it still
Eh,
sucks.
I don't judge, man. Like me and my mom aren't close. Like we're just not. And family is a tricky thing because you're born with them, but that in the long run, how they treat you does impact everything and everything.
Yeah.
In my mom's case, and I'm sure if she is listening to this, I'm sure she'll hate this, but it's the truth. In my mom's case, she'd disappear for years. You know,
That's good.
uh, in hindsight, maybe like it was so like in a weird way. I don't even say this. I want to say I don't say it's with any maliciousness. It's just she came to visit once when I was living in Calgary last time, and one of the things I kind of had this realization after the second or third day, just that we are very different people now. Like there's so much distance that to bridge that gap again would take years. I'm
Yeah.
not saying I'm never not open to it, but it's a lot of work. And I just don't anticipate that work being there going forward.
Yeah. That happens.
Yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is. I mean, it's all. It's like I don't have any malice. I don't like. I don't have malice. I don't have hatred. I just realize that in this life we've grown the way we've grown, and so you try to look for family in ways that you to fill that void that should have been there, but And for you, it sounds like that was your uncle.
Yeah. Yeah. He supported us a lot, actually.
Well, yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
because he's like a huge comic nerd and like music nerd. Like he has a lot of records. Like you can name a band and he's got it.
Nice.
We were in his apartment yesterday to like look through stuff for the first of many times that we have to because we have to like clean his apartment out. He's got like Beatles collections and Sinatra, like so many different people.
It's funny because right now I'm actually selling my comics on eBay. I'm gonna see
Oh,
how that goes.
yeah, and
Right.
I looked up one of his comics, but he's got so many.
Yeah, I know that feeling. Like we're like,
and one is like Fantastic Four something, and it's
like
from the
one,
'60s or whatever.
so
And
it's one of the like first 100 issues of the run, basically.
yeah, and it's 10. Just the one is like $10. It was like, oh wow, okay. It was like a quarter back then. So
Yeah.
it's
Oh yeah. It depends, right? Like some of them, if you have one of the keys, man, you're rolling in it. But even if you don't, I have, so my pride and joy, I'm actually probably selling it like this week. I have Green Lantern #7, Sinestro's very first appearance. It's not in great shape. It's not
no,
in great, but I have it. Right? I also have the first Star Sapphire. I have some of the like early Green Lantern runs.
yeah, he's got some big things.
Well, it's good.
Yeah,
It's how it goes. Like I'm doing it because again, I'm taking the show on the road, right?
yeah,
So I got to save up for an automobile. So this is one of the many things. Like this month is very much I for me almost going like full circle in the sense that I'm like, okay, no matter how this month goes, I'm going to make it happen. That's literally the determination I have this month. If the comics sell, great. If comics don't, also great. I'm going to find a way. No, like that's like don't get attached to this idea that it has to magically work out. It's like it's one of the hardest things I've learned in life is it never goes according to plan. All you can do is do your best, put your stuff out there, put your best foot forward, kind of see how it goes, and that's it, right?
yeah,
That is it. And some things are going to work the way you want them to, some things won't, right? And I got about 3,000 comics I'm trying to get rid of.
it's a lot.
And I'm still keeping like 1,200. So it's like I had something like 4 or 5,000 comics, and just yeah, because I'm a big comic nerd myself, right? So literally before we came on, I was reviewing this book for our first comics.
Oh, that looks cool.
It was awesome, really good book, and so I'm a big comic nerd myself, so I get it, right? The only thing is I remember something like storing stuff for the sake of storing stuff. I like this may be the difference between me and your uncle. I get it. If you love what you got, you're gonna keep what you love, but that's it. Like I'm narrowing it down to the stuff I love, and that's it.
Yeah, he didn't have a job for a couple of years, like 2, 3 years, and he was using the comics and albums and stuff to sell to like pay rent, and his rent wasn't a lot, I guess, but
Oh no, you if you got stuff from that era, he all he had to sell was one or two.
yeah. So and then he had his piles on his living room floor, like what he was going to sell, but then he went to the hospital and stuff. So like I was like, oh, so and that's one of the ones that I looked on eBay like real quick just to be like, oh, my mom doesn't want to like go through each one. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I think you gotta do that. And she's like, no, I just want somebody to like come and be like, this is it. He lives above a comic book store, which is the funniest thing. But the guy doesn't like he doesn't want him to get the comics because he'll probably rip my mom off or something, and all that money is going to go towards my grandma. So
Okay, so with comic shops, okay, if you're gonna go in with comic shops, you gotta have know what they're worth, at least a little bit of knowledge of what they're
and my
worth.
mom doesn't. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Because if you can make a deal, like you're not going to get top dollar from a comic shop, you never are. I mean, but you might not get that top dollar on eBay. I have, to my surprise, to my chagrin, to my like surprise, I found some of my books. Like I have a Warlord of Mars like 4-issue run. J. Scott Campbell does the covers to 3 of them. And because of that, those books are actually worth some money, right? But right now, I got a 99-cent bid, right? So I'm like, okay. The one run I know for sure that's going for sure is my Red Lantern run. I have everything but 28, which was the one where Supergirl went Red Lantern. I have her Red Lantern stuff in the Supergirl run. I put that out on eBay as well. So like I'm putting everything out. I'm going to see what sells. I'm going to see what doesn't, and what doesn't sell, I'm going to go to a comic shop. I'm going to ask for like $1 or $2 a shot, just because some of them might need the stockpile. I need like all I really need is like 4 to 5 grand, and that's like even if I don't get it with the comics, I'll get it with a job. I'll get it with freelancing. I'll get it. Like I'm not. I've hit this wonderful point where I'm just ready to do what's next, and I'm ready to purge what I have to get there. Right. Yeah. That's where I'm at. Your uncle sounded like he loved what he had, and the investment paid off, and he did what he had to like to survive, and you got a nest egg there. I would tell your mom to just, if you want to, hire an appraiser. It'll cost a little money.
Do that.
Yeah, if you got that, I mean, it's going to cost some money because depending on how many, like that's a lot of comics. So it sounds like that's a lot of hours.
There's some file cabinets with comics. Then there's just so many everywhere. There's a room of albums, cassettes, CDs, and then comics. It's just there's a bookcase that has the Spirit, and it's like I think all of it. So
me and your uncle would have gotten along very well. It looks like
got a lot. And then I took a Daredevil from the pile on the floor that he was going to sell, but he had it's like a duplicate or something. And I took an Amazing Spider-Man. Yeah. So he's got a lot of stuff.
No, I mean that's just it, right? I mean, he's not here anymore.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, you got to do what's best for you. And I know this is not what I expected we'd be opening up and talking about.
Oh yeah.
But here we go.
And he's got I forgot, he has like leather bound books, if it's still there. And my girlfriend took he has Lord of the Rings of that, so she took that, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. I didn't know he had that.
Yeah, no, I got some of that too. Like in my storage locker right now, I have Robert Jordan's original Wheel of Time run. Like for me, that's a big deal because that was my first fantasy series. I have the only hardcover that exists for The Great Hunt, which is book 2, which is a book club edition. Right, but everything else is in hardcover, like everything, like the first hardcovers and stuff like that. So it's like a really cool. I have the whole collection, and I'm not getting rid of it because but that meant something. But that means something to me, right? It's not just about like this is why I'm getting rid of purging as much of my collection as I possibly can this month. It's not even just about like some of the books will give me joy, and those ones I'm keeping, but the ones that don't, why do I have them?
Yeah.
Right. I'm at that point in my life where if it's worth having, I'll keep them. And if because we're coming to the like the modern age is like from 92 to now. That's a 30-year span. It's longer than any other age, almost any other age in comics, right? So we're at a point where we're gonna have like a new split at some point real soon. So some of the books I'm keeping are personal things, but I also know some of them are going to be worth money down the road too, because it's how it works. Some things you have are worth nothing, some are worth everything, and some aren't worth it. Like some are somewhere in the middle. So I'm getting rid of the stuff that I don't want to care. I don't want to care about anymore because I'm too old for that shit. But the stuff I really, 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 really feel is valuable to me, not just on a financial level, but on a personal level, right? Like, for example, I'm a big fan of Kyle Rayner as Green Lantern. So I have that whole first run, and I have his New Guardians run from the New Guardians run isn't worth anything, but I have it because it's a personal. I enjoyed that run. I enjoyed the Kyle Rayner original run as well. So I'm going to keep both of those, right? Now, that doesn't mean I like everything.
Yeah.
No, it's not. That's not it. But it's a personal thing because that's what I grew up reading. So I'm keeping that. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be. And is it going to be worth some money? Some of it is. Kyle's a popular character. Some of his early stuff's worth some money. But I don't care about that per se. I just care about what the books made me feel. And that's where I'm at in my life is if the book makes me feel something, I keep it. If it doesn't, fuck it. I'm just getting rid of it.
Yeah. Most of the comics I have are personally from like Kickstarter. So like indie comics, like definitely are like basically what I have. I only have a couple like mainstream kind of things.
So I'm a complete nerd. I have Kickstarter books. Like that book I showed you is a Kickstarter book, right? I have stuff like Naira X. I have stuff like, Nightwolf from Rob Moultrie. The last Kickstarter I supported before I did this, Rob's holding the book. So the day I meet him in person is the day I get it.
Oh, that's awesome.
But again, that's a personal thing for me. I'm a big fan of Rob, so ergo, this is where I wouldn't do this with too many other people, but Rob's a great guy and I trust him.
Yeah, he's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Travis Gibb, he actually has his first trade is on Kickstarter right now. So
Yes.
I definitely back that.
I would like to, but I don't know Travis well enough. Like that's what it comes down to for me now is all the books. So the only other person I would do this with at this point in time is John Westhoff.
Oh, well, he's cool too.
Oh, he's very, very, very fucking cool.
Yeah.
Right. No, that's because I respect John as a person. He played Magic on this podcast, by the way. He played Magic the Gathering.
I think I saw a Facebook post about that.
Yeah, he won with that damn Hypnotoad of his. Screw that Hypnotoad. But no, we had fun. Like we had fun. But he's a good dude, right? I don't know Travis that well. I know Travis is a good guy, but he's not. How to put this? He's not a close friend. He's not someone I consider a close friend. Someone like Bill Maws, right? Bill Maws is a really cool dude. He's come on and drawn the show. Like there are people I would do it for, but there are some people it's just like I kind of meet you and get to know you a little bit better. And it's funny, right? Like that's human relationships for you, right?
Yeah.
Right. You wanna get to know somebody really well. But if you do, you trust them with everything. And if you don't, well, but that's how it goes.
Yeah, I backed some Kickstarters that I was like, oh, probably not gonna get this, but
oh yeah. I have one from I'm not gonna name the creator on the air. I backed it in like 2006, 2007. I never got it.
Yeah. Stuff like that.
I mean, that's a risk you take with Kickstarter though too. Like you gotta get like honestly,
and I understand that because right now I'm going through that. So I had to deal with the funeral and stuff. So like I didn't print the comic that's coming out. It's getting printed at the moment, but yeah, like that Kickstarter ended in April. So
Yeah,
uh,
but I mean, at the same time, like life happens, right?
yeah, so
Right. So, no, I mean that's the thing. Like you, life happens. It's the thing is, it's as long as you're open about what's going on. Hey, my mom died. My stepmom died. My uncle died. People will give you a lot of slack for that. You're not gonna get too many. Where's my fucking comic, you son of a bitch? After that, I mean, do you really want that guy to support you after? Like, I mean, if that.
no, I need to get ink like here and needs to get printed because I really want to send it out just so I can do my next one, which is
Yeah, no.
well, it's supposed to be in July, so I'm still hoping I can do it then. Yeah.
Well, I mean, but Greg, don't how to put this, like, okay, so Rodney Fike is doing his Roadkill Rampage this month.
Yeah.
All right. I've been excited for it because I helped edit the book, which is, so I'm
Oh,
really, really excited about this book myself. But the thing is, like last month, he was going to do it last month, but then just enough things piled up that he just said, you know what, I can't do it.
yeah.
Right, I can't do it. Too many things are in the way, too many obstacles. So they took an extra month. Right? I mean, you definitely got a pass from anybody that knows you, right?
Yeah. Yeah, like it's supposed to be the next one is our second issue of Mittens, and that's supposed to be like mid-July, but like I'm still thinking like, well, if I don't get into by a certain point this month, then I'm probably gonna push that to like August or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
And no one's gonna hold that against you. I'm
yeah.
just saying, yeah,
Yeah.
no one's gonna.
I don't care if they're like, oh, I thought it was gonna be this month. And I'm like, ah, things happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's where you're at. So I'm just gonna say this here, because in light of everything, my condolences, man.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, it is what it is. How do I say this? Um, but I mean, it's cool when I'm just gonna go back to your uncle's stuff for a second. It's cool when you kind of look at history like that. You look at how the hobby has evolved. I don't know if he was collecting comics all the way to the present day, but if he
Yeah,
was,
he was. I mean, like from being a kid to like up to like a cheer. So
yeah, no, it's the way it goes. I got some stuff I'm keeping from every era, like myself, right? Some of my stuff's from the '90s, some of it, most of it, and a little bit of it's from the '80s. A tiny, tiny touch of it's from the '80s, but I'm a '90s kid, so I got the crazy chromium shit. I got the over the top like shit that happened in the '90s. I got to watch the 2000s when the comic industry involved, quote unquote, evolved. And I got stuff from now where the comic industry has decentralized into Kickstarter, into all these indie possibilities. We're in a different world today, and
yeah,
and comics are a reflection of that.
yeah, yeah, we are.
So how'd you get in? Like, how'd you get into comics?
Um,
Your uncle or?
oh, actually no. He thought it was cool that I was writing comics, but like I started writing a story in 2014.
Okay.
So I got bored one night.
One night? Okay.
I've done so many blog posts about this. uh, so I got bored one night while I didn't have a job, and then I just started writing, um, and that's what my flagship title, Seer Chronicles, is now.
Okay.
So I started writing while watching Everybody Loves Raymond, and
Oh
I'm
Jesus.
like, oh, it's just reruns in the background. And I was like, I'm like really bored, but I want to do something. So then I picked my laptop up and just started writing. And I wrote, firefighter goes into a research lab. Like that's the first sentence that I wrote. And then it evolves to like what it is now. It took a year and a half, I think, to write over 1,200 pages. And I took the over 1,200 pages and then I split it up into like comic book scripts. and I took more of that stuff and edited it down and took some of it and made it into solo series. So that's where I got my series ink scales, and there's another one. And I split those apart from the Seer Chronicles, and that's like the main thing. Things connect to it. So yeah. Then 2017 came around. Well, 2016, I was looking for an artist. I went on Craigslist and looked for an artist. Didn't know what I was actually looking for. So I
Yeah.
found a graphic designer, which I was like, oh, that's not the same thing, but I didn't know yet. I could have easily just went into Google, and this guy named Dylan popped up, and he's the only person that emailed me from that ad, and he didn't live that far away at the time. And he's like, "Oh, I'm not like an artist, but I'm a graphic designer, so I can like make a logo or something for you." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." And then we started like texting and stuff for like a year. I moved to Florida for like 3 months around that time, thinking my whole life could change if I just move, which it can't, so don't do that. Um,
Well, it can, but not the ways people think.
yeah, no. And it was like I was miserable when I lived there for like the 3 months that I was there. Um, I was living in like a dining room of my friend's parents' house. Uh, yeah, it was pretty terrible. I was paying like $300 a week to live there, which doesn't make any sense because I was home, which basically my paycheck. And that I worked for them, so like I was basically just giving my money back to them. So it didn't make any sense.
Sketchy as fuck. So that
Yeah,
sounds
and
like, yeah.
they didn't think I would get that, but so I only had enough money to get food each day, like salad or whatever, and then gas, and then just work for them. And it was like just a cycle. Then my stepdad passed away that July, so then I had like an out basically. So I came back to New York.
Dude, I would have bailed. Like I
Yeah.
would have bailed so hard, man.
So
And
I was in their driveway, and then like my friend's stepfather-in-law was like, "Oh, so yeah, you're gonna like pay for like the month?" And I'm like, "I've been here 3 days. I'm not paying you for a whole month." And he's like, "Can you write a check?" And I'm like, I don't really want to. So I did. I wrote a check. And then as soon as he got to New York, it definitely bounced, and then I blocked his number. So I had to see him at my friend's wedding, but I didn't care about that because he forgave me because that was years after. But yeah, that was really annoying, the whole situation.
yeah, no, that sounds incredibly sketchy, actually.
Yeah.
Just the whole way around. Yeah, I've had some interesting living expenses. I got some stories that I could tell, but yeah, what I've learned is like I'm at the end of my time here. Like I'm coming to the end of my time here. So I'm in a weird spot. Like now it's like if I do want to mention a problem, right? Is it worth it? Because I'm leaving, right? Right, and it's a very very interesting spot to be in, right? Because if I was here longer term, probably would mention some things, but again, that confidence, that assertion, um, that again, is it worth the headache,
Yeah.
right? Right? Is it worth the headache? And you learn these things older. Younger, you're like, I'll just go with the flow, and you're like, and then when you're older, you realize I was a fucking idiot. I shouldn't have done that deal. That deal was terrible. Like $300 for a dining room is bad. Working for
Yeah, it was really
for
bad. I didn't even really know like what was happening until I like got there, and then I was sleeping on like a twin bed, which I could barely fit on. I was like taller than that. So there's no privacy at all. So like it was their dining room, but it was like just off of the kitchen.
oh
And
geez,
yeah, so like people could just walk into the kitchen and I would just sleep in there. Yeah, that was terrible.
it's kind of weird.
So
Yeah, yeah.
so I was in Florida, and then we decided, me and that guy Dylan decided to like start to form a company in a way, but not really. He wanted to actually meet me, and I was like, oh well, I'm gonna be back in New York because of things happened, He's like, oh, okay. So then we finally met at his apartment. We talked for like a very long time, like hours. And then we went to a networking thing after that, a different day. And then we went back to his apartment and talked more. And he asked like what I wanted out of the business and like what I actually want to do. Did I want to like make comics and for like a company or like have my own company? So we figured all that stuff out. And then he joined because he likes the story that I did. So he's like, oh, well, that's sick. So then he like got more involved into it. So now it's him and me, and we run Sierra Nova Comics. I took the name from my younger brother that had a company called Sierra Nova, and it was like a screen printing thing, and it was actually supposed to be like promoting artists and stuff. So I am doing it kind of like that, but he wanted to do like skateboard art and all this other stuff. And then that died out. So then I just took the name Sierra Nova and put comics after it. And I was like, yeah,
That's an interesting origin story, actually, man.
yeah. And now we have 7 comics. Well, as soon as it gets printed, we have 7 comics, and we have so many more.
So, okay, so there's a lot to unpack there. Let's go beyond bizarre living circumstances. Um, let's do like the comic stuff here, where it's like, so how long, so when did the first issue actually make it from to print?
uh, Ink One was 2019. From 2017, which is when like we became an LLC in August of that year. Um, we were looking for art, like artists, and at the beginning, like many other people that started out, they don't want to pay. So I was just like, oh, well, I don't have money to pay. So we were like looking around. Then he's like, oh, and then we looked into like crowdfunding. The first thing we ever did was Indiegogo. It failed miserably, and he knew because he's a marketer. He's like, well, that's not going to work. And I was like, nah, it's going to work. The story's amazing. What are you talking about? But nobody knows the story because I don't have an audience.
Well, no,
So
like I market, right? I do
yeah,
marketing stuff for people, and one of the things I realize is, especially creative people, they undervalue the point of putting yourself out there. You have to, and especially when you're getting started, you just like, hey, this is what I can do. This is who I am. You're trying to figure out that identity, and people will take a chance on you for a first project. But if you think it's like it's because it's amazing and awesome and full of cheese and people, sure, if the concept's really interesting, you might draw some people. But honestly, people got to know you're there.
yeah. So we did the first Indiegogo. We got $292. Thanks, Mom. And then we it's basically her and like 2 other people. And then we had a third business partner that we found through like some blog. Never met him. Yeah, we made him another partner for like a little bit. He wasn't doing anything, so then he bounced. Um, 2019 came around. We finally put our first comic out, which is Ink, with Adam Fields as the artist, and he's still the artist for that series. Um, he just improved from 2019 to now. Like,
Absolutely.
my brother's like, is there a different artist? I'm like, no, he just got like way better from like 2019. He's like, oh. And then after Ink, we put out Seer Chronicles. Seer Chronicles originally was going to be out before, like the first issue was going to be out before Ink, but things happened with, we had an artist, but he did like skateboard art more, and he did not know how to do like sequential art, and it was
No.
terrible. And then at the same time, I didn't have a complete comic book script at that time. I had like a storyboard, and Dylan's like, this is like a for movies. And I was like, we gotta break it down more. So then we, did more editing, and then we found an artist. That artist was we made a comic, but he used some of his own liberties for stuff. even though like we have specific things in our like universe that have to get put in. He put our logo on a bus stop. We didn't ask that. He put a picture of Ed Sheeran on a wall. I was like, I don't even like that dude. I don't care about that music. But thanks, but can you like remove that? He's like, yeah, but it's funny. I was like, well, you just wasted like time doing that. So now you're gonna have to remove that because we're all about like promoting indie music within our comics. So like we want to like do that. That's one of the other things we want to do. Is promote indie music because Dylan has another company that's an independent like music label with his brother, a couple other people. So when we are gonna like have music in a comic book, it'll have like some song lyrics from like a person that we know, or we get permission from like a band that's not well known. Like that. Yeah. So then after that artist, we had to find a different artist. So we found Daniel Gorman. He's cool.
Lot there. So it sounds like we'll say 2016 to 2020. We'll just say that we'll go there. Was how not to do things.
Yep. Yeah.
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 Which I think we all have to go through. Because we all
Yep.
think we have a master plan. Although I kind of feel like just based on this conversation so far, you had a strong desire to do something and you kind of just stumbled your way through it a little
We
bit.
did.
That's what it feels like. Yeah.
Yeah. And then after Dan did the art for issue 2 of Secret Chronicles, he wasn't a big fan of how Dylan critiques things, which I understand from you know what he means about that. So he kind of plays director when he shouldn't be playing director.
That's a
He's
boundary thing.
he's like an editor, but he like was being super like he was trying to be like Steven Spielberg when you didn't do that. And then even for Ink 2, he was kind of doing that, and Adam was getting slightly annoyed. So I had to like tell him like cool down and don't do that because I can't lose him. So um we figured that out. But because he wanted to add certain things that like when people read a comic book, they're not going to notice the thing that you wanted to add in there. Yeah.
You have to make a decision what's important to you in a story you're telling.
Yeah.
Right? It's cool to have extra stuff in there and if there's a reason for it, a good reason for it, sure. Absolutely. Right? And if you have an artist like when I've worked with artists myself, I'll have a clear vision of kind of what I want to come across. But then I go the other way. I'm gonna let they're better at it than I am. I'm not gonna like okay, the first guy you had with the Ed Sheeran stuff, like some of that is not conducive to what you're doing because what you're doing is you're trying to tell a story and adding cool little like things like the logo on the bus. Sure, you know what? Honestly, that's a cool idea. Yeah, all things considered, right? It's all right. But at the same time, is it what you want the story to be? And if the answer is no, like, but it's the other thing too. Like you can do a lot of that stuff in the thumbnail phase of the comic because thumbnails you could like an artist doesn't care because the artist hasn't put like a serious amount of effort into it yet. When the pages are done, they're going to assume like any little change. There might be small changes, but they're small changes. All the big shit, we've done all that. That was what the thumbnails were for.
Yeah, we didn't even like figure that out until I think the second issue of Secret Chronicles was like when we actually did start like having artists do thumbnails and stuff because we were like we need to like improve on what we're doing. And that's what we keep doing at every comic. We're just improving, like, learning more. So,
well, again, you started where you started. You're like, I want to do this. I'm bored. All right, right. That was the initial origin story. but eventually you kind of made the decision like, okay, I got to take this more seriously,
Yeah.
especially when money's involved. I don't want Adam to kill me, like put me in like a choke sleeper and put my lights out. Why are you doing this, right? Because it's not. But also, I mean, this is an important thing to understand too. Is you when I edit a book for somebody, I keep in mind like they're the client. I have all these ideas on how to make it better, but A, I don't always know what I'm talking about, and B, right, I don't. The vision is the creators, not mine.
Mhm.
And that's the important thing here, right? So someone's going to go, hey, what have you thought about this? And if the answer is no, I haven't, that's kind of cool. Cool. But if the answer is yeah, but we didn't go that way, leave me the fuck alone. Um, you might, yeah, right? Which it sounds like that's where it kind of got to. Adam was like, I want to kill him.
Yeah, yeah, he was getting to the point of like he was actually getting annoyed. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna tone him down, calm down. He's like, okay.
So how does it work now? Like, do you write the script? Like, do you guys work close to knit? Or like, do you have like a master plan at this point? Because you said 1,200 pages is a lot of
Oh,
material to work with.
I I'm the one that writes it. Dylan goes in and edits it. Sometimes he does like way over editing and like doesn't rip the script apart in a sense, but he adds more stuff like angles, like stuff like that. I don't really do that when I'm writing. I'm just writing the story, and then we go through it again to polish it. And then I have my friend Hector, who is the artist for Seer Chronicles now, and he's the artist that we wanted from the beginning, but I couldn't afford him at the time. And he edits other stories. So I have a couple other that I wrote that there's one that is very good. I went through it 7 different times. I don't know why I did that with this comic, but I did. I had some other writer I paid. I gave him a plot description and I'm like, okay, here's the plot description. Now like write the story. I changed that story 6 other times up until last year. And then because it evolved over time. First I was like, oh, and then he's like, oh, well, now his tattoo like makes him turn into like an animal or something. I was like, nah, that's like going down the same way that my character Ink does stuff, and I don't want that character to be like that. So it went from like a champion boxer that turns into an animal like Beast Boy, but with a tattoo, to now it's a washed up like champion boxer that he lost like everything, and there's this business that it's kind of like the boys in a sense. So there's this corporate entity that messes with him in a sense, and he finds that out throughout his like little story arc, and yeah, so but yeah, after 7 times I got to that point.
Well, sometimes it depends on the story. I'm working on a novel right now, and in my novel, I have found a spot where I can legitimately do karaoke in the novel, just because I can. Sometimes I write things to amuse myself as much as it is to tell the story to the audience, because I'm one of those guys that tends to. Every story's been told. That's cool. How can I have fun with it? Because that's what really matters. It's not. I did an all powerful story about a dragon that got that.
So rather than 3 back to 350 for damage, I'm just gonna trade it with him for the cost of that.
On a second here. So, but because now the microphone's picking that up, which I shouldn't. It shouldn't be. That's not business. It should be picked up. Hold on a second here. All right, going back to that. Cool. All right, so here's the deal. long story short, like when I do a story, right? I did a story about a dragon uh, that basically got altered by an artist, like a magic card. So I decided that it was be the glitter that set him off and become the super villainous, evil version of this dragon. Turned me into like right because honestly, the whole structure of it is like honestly, um, um, honestly, like the whole structure of it is just like I can tell the story about this dragon going on a rampage. We've done that before. But how many dragons can say they lost it over glitter?
Yeah, I don't know any.
Right? And that's the thing, like a story has to be fun for you. As much as like it's gotta say something about you. Now what it says about me is I'm a silly motherfucker. And I'm gonna have this how do I put this? I'm gonna have this silly conversation about um you know this dragon being touched by glitter and losing his shit over it, right? Because it was the glitter that set him off. Now, why was that? Now, again, now what the story is really about is dragon was perfectly happy being who he was, and somebody messed with him, so he's going to mess with them back. That's the that's a simple story. That's the story everybody knows. But when you add glitter, makes everything better. What can I say? And I've amused you telling this story.
Yeah.
See, right?
Yeah.
And it adds something. It adds a quirk, a linkle, a layer to the story.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the whole deal. That's the whole importance to the story.
Yeah.
Right. Nothing else. Right. You have to figure out your own way of telling the stories you care about. And that might be the biggest secret to any kind of art. It doesn't matter if it's comics, writing, prose. It doesn't matter if it's music or a picture. You're telling a story to the audience, even if it's just a small moment in time.
Yep.
Those things tend to how do I put this? They tend to make the difference. It's those little touches you bring to the story that matter, which is why like the original artist, like, yeah, I don't blame him for some of the ideas he had. He wanted to put his own spin on the story.
Yeah.
But in comics, it's a collaboration. You're the writer, your spin has to be there. And if he's changing the tone or the intention of the story you're telling, then it can't fly. But that doesn't mean that an artist shouldn't add their own flavor to the story. That's why you have an artist in comics, because it's not just your script; it's how they tell it.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I had to tell Dylan that a couple of different times.
Yeah.
The one comic he has not done any work on is Mittens, and that I didn't think was going to do as well as it did. But I guess
It happens.
Everybody likes cats in space, so that was like a big one. My brother bought one like 2 weeks ago, and then my dad looked at it, and then he gave it to my uncle, or it's on his side of the family.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever met my cousin or whatever, and he's like part of Hollywood or something. I don't expect anything to come of that, but he
never know.
Like, oh yeah, I know. So then I told the artist of Mittens all that. I was like, oh yeah, like I have a cousin that somehow is connected with Hollywood and stuff. And he's like, oh, I could see this as like an animated show. I was like, oh, like I actually wanted to do it myself at some point. Like I would definitely do that. So I was learning Blender, and I could like animate it. I just would have to like relearn how to do a couple things. I made an animation in Blender. It took 2 hours to make a hot dog go into a bun, put ketchup on it.
Oh, absolutely. No,
It was 15 seconds. It was 15 seconds of like a video, and I was like, oh my god.
No, that's why it's work. That's why these animators make the money they make, right?
Yeah.
It has everything to do with the fact that, um, it has everything to do with the fact that, um, right, the you're taking like hours. Just think of like an animated show like Batman. Like let's take a Batman cartoon. How many hours does it take to get a single minute to the air?
Yeah.
Just
lot.
just 1 minute. I did some animation for a client once, like just to get 2 seconds of animation, just 2 freaking seconds. Me and my friend worked on Blender and a few other things for hours to make 2 seconds. And afterwards, we just said, you know what? If you're gonna do animation stuff again, I'm gonna pay through the fucking schnoz because.
Yeah. So yeah, we have services on our platform, which we have like a bunch of other stuff on there. And there's like animation is one of the things. It's not me that I'm gonna be finding an animator to do it.
You'd be
Because I'm
prepared.
not that skilled in doing
Well,
it.
no, I think on that one, like if you get to the point where an animated studio is interested in your work that
Yeah.
way, I wouldn't want to do all the work myself for that.
Yeah,
Like that feels like, you know what, a studio should do this. I should not do this.
Yeah.
And and this is someone, again, I do video, audio, I write. I sometimes draw well, sometimes, right? And I say that like with all humility, but like it's a still image or putting words to a page, I'm very comfortable doing. I've had animators on this show. The work they do is nothing short of incredible, and I just respect that process too much to just say, "Hey, I'll do it all myself." That feels like a path to insanity.
Yeah, if I like learned and but I would do it for like somebody else, but I don't know if I would do it for Mittens because I know how much work it is to do, and then like it would just take forever. And like I could make that story last a while. Me and the artist was actually talking like a couple of months ago about that. Like, so it was gonna end at issue 3, like the first plot arc was going to end, and then it was going to be a huge time jump because it's connected to other comics of mine. And then we came up with a whole other like plot arc because like we have to change a couple things in issue 3. So now we're going to have a whole other like 1 to 2 things, and it's now going to be like a whole Mittens verse. There's like other planets and stuff we're going to go in, and all this other stuff. I have like a one shot of this other character that he's Panda and he's a bounty hunter, and I can't wait to do that. So there's like so much that we just figured out just because we had to change this one story. So that was awesome.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're in an interesting spot because you kind of wrote a Bible for the like when I say Bible, I mean like just like a Bible for your whole universe. Well before like, which is gutsy. Like I feel like I'm happy with just a small story first.
Oh, I just kept writing because I was
Yeah,
and I kept adding characters. Like some of the characters in my comics are based off people that I actually know in person. I did ask them before they were put in. I'm like, oh, do you want to be a villain, or a hero, or vigilante, or just a cop or something? And they're like, oh, like one person that I'm not friends with anymore said they wanted to be a villain. I was like, that's awesome. I'm gonna hurt you very badly in this comic now. So,
so I well, see, but people are okay with that. See, if you want to punish somebody truthfully in fiction, make them fan fiction. That's how you do it. I did a novel back in the day, and I was like, okay, who wants to die? And all of a sudden, it's like I got hands like, oh, me, you can kill me, and I'm like, who the fuck are we? Like, seriously?
Yeah.
Right. But so the best way to do writing revenge, however, so J. Michael Straczynski, the guy who created Babylon 5. So we got actors that played Jakar and Londo. Got him good. Like just got him. like really got him. So he decided to do revenge the only way he could. He wasn't going to write anything terrible for them to do on camera because they would have just planned it up and played with it and said, okay, fine, whatever. No. What he did was he wrote them as an erotic fan fiction. He gave one of them a sex change and then just, that's what he did. And it was just like, and it was a full script. It was a full script of this. So it's kind of one of those hidden lore things in Babylon 5, and that he did all these scripts for the show. And it was one of those, like, you looked at that, it's like, I don't want to mess with the guy, but it taught me a valuable lesson. Don't put somebody in there. You if you don't like somebody, don't put them in your story. They're gonna love that.
So I was friends with this person years ago, and then he actually said he doesn't care like what I do with the characters. So,
no,
but he was supposed to be killed off like way before like what we're now doing. He's kind of like became one of our favorite characters.
Yeah.
So I like the character more than the actual person in real life. And
it happens. Relationships change.
So Dylan's like, oh, we can't kill him off now because like he's a good character. We're gonna kill him off. I still have like that's in my head. I already know like what's gonna happen, who's gonna do it, and all this other stuff. But maybe I don't want to spoil that on here because I mean anyone that's invested in the character, because you're supposed to kill off good characters at some point in the story too. Yeah.
Right.
In my universe, and I know other indie people do this, when a character dies, they stay dead. In my universe, they actually do stay dead. I won't ever have like another comic of like there won't be another comic.
So this is the thing. So at this point in time in your career, you have the luxury, and I say this like with no disrespect, you have the luxury of anonymity, because the cool thing about that anonymity is you can play with these characters. You can tell the most compelling stories you can. When you become successful, that becomes a lot harder to do. Like I look at I look at things a little differently now that I'm older. From a creative standpoint, I hate the fact that in the big two companies, there's no act 3. There's hardly ever an act 3 for any of these characters, ever. But the reason why that is because these characters are successful in making the company's money.
Yeah.
So you want to keep them alive as much as possible because you want to get as much as you can out of them. Now, creatively speaking, I don't know if there's a new Superman story I want to watch, or a new Batman story, but I can't deny. But again, that's me as a creative. Me as a business person can't deny that Bruce Wayne, Batman, all these things, right?
Yeah.
They how do I put this? Right? They're popular. People still want to read new Bruce Wayne stories. People still want to read new Batman stories. People still want to read them. So you can't just, and considering the amount of money you're getting, it's like this. Or another good example, television example, The Simpsons. Is there really a new episode of The Simpsons you can watch at this point? But people like it. There's a comfort to having The Simpsons on television. And I cannot, as a businessman, look at that as a terrible thing. Yeah. I mean, we all have that dream of our universes someday being the thing on television and comics and literature, whatever the case may be. Making people really happy or sad or angry or laughing or crying, and they want more.
Yeah.
Right? That's a great again, business wise, that's a fantastic.
So right now, as like Mittens is like probably our biggest comic as at the moment. Not like well known yet, or whatever. But we did our first.
Don't tell yourself short.
Yeah.
Don't tell you now.
But we did our first ever Comic-Con in March, and it was at a D&D convention, and like,
awesome.
Like the 16 people that were there, the only people that bought comics were the organizer, which is my friend, this girl that was doing concessions, and then the other people that bought comics were people that were coming into the building that we were at. Like they weren't part of a convention; they were just like doing a tour because it was like some fancy mansion thing. And there was this old guy that bought like 3 of the comics, like ink, other stuff. But the last person to buy a comic, and it was Mittens, was this girl that lived in that building. She lived above, but she doesn't read comics because she told me that. She's like, she came up to the table and she didn't see my name in the, well, she didn't know who I was technically, but like we're behind a table of comics that we made. And she's like, oh, did you guys just like collect these? And I'm like, there's duplicates of each one of these. Like we made these. She's like, oh, that's even cooler. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And she's like, I've never read a comic book in my entire life. I'm like, oh, well, now's the chance to do that. And she's like, oh, Mittens, what's that? I'm like, well, it's about cats in space. You like cats? I just got a cat. Like literally that day,
Yeah.
the day before, she got a cat. And she was talking about how she got a cat named ZD. And it was just really weird how it happened. So when she came up to the table, she said all that stuff or whatever. And there was a job that my younger brother works at, and she actually works there. Did not know that at all. I found that out the next day because they have Slack, and she was talking about it on that. And she's like, oh yeah, I got this really cool comic and I read it to my cat. So, and my brother was like, oh, that's my brother made that comic. And she's like, oh, so they did all that and we're talking about that. That was really cool. But she was moving out the next day. So she was there at that moment and bought that comic. She got a cat the day before. It was really weird how that happened.
No, it's not. I mean, the timing's awesome. I mean, for you, it was beneficial. But I mean, there's a lot you can learn from that moment if you really, for example, okay, what did you learn in that moment?
She likes cats.
Okay, that's one way. That's one thing. But okay, let's talk. Let's do this. This is both on a business level and a personal level. You have comics you really care about, right? You worked your ass off for them. So one of the challenges you have is trying to find an audience for them.
Yeah.
So you have space kitties from outer space, okay? Right? That I mean, might not be quite that simplistic, but I'm just doing this for simplicity here. Okay. So your challenge is now to find an audience for that sort of thing. Right? Well, she gave you just a magical hint of what you should be looking at for your shows.
Yeah.
So where are you going? Like, where should you be looking at doing?
Oh, people that like cats
but also, okay, pet shows, competitions.
Yeah, pet shows. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Competitions.
I didn't think about
that. Well, that's my point, right? Yeah, like one of the biggest things as a creative is, especially today's day and age, we have niched all our works. Okay, this particular book is, from what I can get, it may be, again, who knows where it goes, right? Like, who knows where it goes? But it seems to me that's the one that's grabbed most people's attention. People have this natural inclination towards cats. Well, I mean, look at our phones, man. We're doing Egyptian style hieroglyphic shit with our cats at this point in time. Like, you look at Egyptian hieroglyphs and you look at some of the fucking memes we have on, they're almost identical, and you're like human nature hasn't changed in 1,000 years, right? And it's like, wow, it's unbelievable. Like, that's, I think, the most unbelievable thing. And they showed an Egyptian hieroglyphic tablet, and they showed our meme culture and some of the symbols we use, and they're almost identical, and you're like, what the fuck, right? But in a cool, it's a cool part. It's cool, right? So that means that appeal has always been there. So what you should be doing, what you should be looking at then is, okay, I have a book that might appeal to pet owners. Not only pet, so where can I find these people? So two obvious spots are pet stores, right? Right, an obvious spot. And another obvious spot is there's all these weirdly weird pet accommodations for grooming, breeding, stuff like that, right? Yeah. Might not be quite your audience, but still might be some of your audience there. So you're like, wait, I can like put my comics out there and attract a whole different audience that's uniquely yours.
Yeah.
Never thought about that, huh?
No, I didn't think about that. Huh. I know that for like a couple other comics, like I could go to a different type of convention. Like I can go to a tattoo convention and like I know ink would probably sell.
Yeah.
One, because the character is based off of my tattoo artist. And he would be at the convention most likely.
Well,
depending on which one I would be at.
that would initially help you, but I mean,
Yeah. But
but you I mean, I would do it beyond just marketing him, although
Yeah.
building him up is not a bad thing either.
Yeah.
But I mean, but that's why you got to think in those terms, right? Like, what are your books about, and how do they appeal? You know, like I have an Alice in Wonderland Greek mythology book, okay, and so who's going to want to read that? Alice in Wonderland fans, Greek
Yeah.
mythology fans, college students, theater kids. Why? Because this is the classic story being retold in a very fun way, right? You think in those terms,
Yeah.
right? You need to think in those terms. With your comics, you have to do the same thing because, again, comics, especially in the Kickstarter realm, have niched out. So, what's your niche? Right? Yes, you're telling a full universe. So you might be thinking, okay, I want this big, cool universe out there that people were, and that can be the master plan. Like that can be like your big supervillain Machiavellian master plan to take over the world and stuff. That's great. But you want to build audience for these books beyond just the universe, like these books you've created. So what you should be doing then is going, okay, who does my book appeal to? And how do I reach them?
Yeah, pet conventions or something would be really cool. I didn't even think about that. Or like just a pet shop, like a store.
Why not? Like this particular book fits that niche perfectly.
Yeah.
Right? Someone will come in with a cat, right? Particularly a cat owner. You're like, that's a cat book.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And if you can competently spell out what the book's about, hey, what's it about? Kitties in outer space. Woo! I'm in. Right? It almost like writes itself, right?
Yeah. All I like, basically the pitch that I said at the convention was, "You like cats?" People are like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh, okay." And then they started looking through it, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Cool." And then they bought it. I was like, "Oh,
Yeah. You. So this is just why I'm bringing this up. You had a universal connection that people got.
Yeah.
It hits an audience that way. So understanding that, it's about you. Like for that particular book, it's about utilizing that going forward, right? Just for that book. Now, I want to say this will only work for that book.
Yeah.
But so what? Right? One of my favorite Marvel comics of all time is Unbeatable Squirrel Girl. You laugh, right? It's a silly comic. Do you know where that book sold really well? Not in comic shops, Scholastic.
Oh, well.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
It's a kid's book, It's a giant kid's book. It's like, and it was one of Marvel's only child entry books. And I bring this up to you like this just to understand, right? You're not just like, this is something all creators need to understand. You're not just marketing to the audience you think you're marketing to. You got to look at every book and like, okay, who's going to like this besides me? Who's going to like this book? I hope you like your books, because if you don't, that's going to be a problem down the road. But I say it like that because I want you to understand that's the real appeal. That's the real draw, is you have to understand that every book appeals to a certain facet of an audience. Your job as a creator, part of your job from the marketing end of things, your partner would listen to me and go, "This is fucking brilliant. Why aren't we doing this?"
Yeah, I'm gonna tell him about that.
Right? But that's the thing. Like, why not appeal to just I mean, that's how the girl bought you. Why the girl bought your book? She didn't really care it was a comic.
Yeah, because she never read a comic book in her entire life.
Yeah,
so
but why did that appeal to her?
Because she likes cats.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Simple thing. But
Yeah.
it's like once you underwrite right, it's like we got it possible here. Next thing you know, you're gonna come back to me a few months later. You'd be like, "How much do I owe you?" Because now,
Yeah.
right? That's the thing. Like you like, and I say this to everybody. Like everything we do has an appeal to someone more than what we're going for. And sometimes, like I do, like I advertise. I do video packaging advertising. Right now, I think I'm trying to reach creatives because I think creatives underestimate this part of their business, right? But reality, maybe is I should be hitting small businesses because small businesses need this more than anything else. Even big businesses need it, but small businesses probably need it more.
Yeah.
Right. But again, it's understanding what you offer, right? And who it appeals to. This is why you wanted to come on the show?
I just wanted to come on the show because I know a lot of people go on the show.
Yes.
I wanted to meet you and stuff. So
Well, nice to meet you, Craig. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, nice to meet you.
Yeah.
I hope this has been fun for you so far.
yeah, this is a good podcast. I've been on a couple other ones that were like blah, so this is a good one.
Yeah, well, thanks. I try. I am very good at making an ass out of myself. What can I say? Right. But and I say that and all self-deprecation aside, like I've enjoyed doing this show for a very long time because I get to meet amazing people. Like I think anybody that listens to this particular episode, like we are going to unfortunately have to cut this a little short because we started way later than we planned on.
Yeah.
And while I would love to have you back, we are I'm kind of at the edge of the run, right?
Yeah.
So where are you situated from? If you don't mind my asking, where do you live? What area?
Upstate New York. And
So you do you want to make a little gentleman's agreement right now? Here's the gentleman's agreement. Right? When I'm in New York, we do this in person. We do it right.
Yeah, if you're in the area, you know.
I promise you, I'll eventually be in the area. Like, yeah, podcast is going on the road in like October, right? So I don't know if I head east this year, but I will be heading east next year.
Yeah, there's a couple comic creators that really want to meet us.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, well, and we were supposed to go to Nashville Comic Con, which just happened. But you know, things happened, so.
Well, yeah, no, you had some real life shit happen. I mean, it's the way it goes.
I was like, and then you know, money, and we gutted the entire upstairs of our house, so I'm like in the process of trying to do that too. So yeah,
big hug. I give you a hug if I give you. It sounds like you got things going on.
There's a couple.
But what I wanted to say is I think I'm going to give you a pretty big compliment here, right? You are living proof that if you want something, no matter what obstacles go in the way, you can make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Me and Dylan have said multiple times on our podcast that we're like failing upwards.
Well, but I see. I would challenge the failure part of that, and what I mean by that, here's what I mean by that. Yeah, you made a lot of mistakes like that. I think the honest thing is you made a lot of mistakes, but one, you kept going, and two, all your mistakes have been leading you somewhere.
Yeah, and on top of all the other stuff that we do our podcast, our own comics, all those Kickstarters that we do. We have a platform that has other people's comics on there as well. So
yeah.
So we run that, but I've been like kind of like away from doing that. But somebody just finished one of their comics, so now I gotta upload that at some point.
So Anita, I if you're still there, hi. This has been a weird little episode, and the fact that we had to do all kinds of technical things. We got a hello during this last little bit there. So, but because we're doing this on Zoom and not how we normally do this, it's been kind of like back and forth. Yeah. Hey, Anita, I'm glad you're still here. Yeah. So we had all kinds of technical difficulties to do this. So it's been like a Zoom thing. So I just want to say hi. I'm glad you're here. And we're about to wrap up because of, again, when we started. So I want to do this again in person, just because I feel like we had a bit of a fun conversation, but we had an odd start. Let's just keep it. Right. But what I want to say to you is this: like, I admire the fact that you have stuck with it. You have done 7 comics, which is, I understand how hard that is to do. That is not an easy feat in and of itself. You're trying to. Next time we'll talk about managing continuity, because that must be a bit of a headache for you guys sometimes. Or at least it's going to get
all me. So
yeah, it's a bit of a headache.
He knows some of the story, but like he doesn't know all of it still. So
interesting. We'll have to talk about that next time, because that's an interesting position. What I will say though, and this is the biggest compliment I'm going to give you, Mr. Greg, is this: you've not stopped. You've made good books. You've made good works, and you should be very proud of how far you've come.
Thanks.
Yeah, no, seriously. Right. You worked your ass off, and I wouldn't say failed upwards, because you made 7 comics. And no matter how you look at that, that's a success.
Yeah.
Right. You stumbled upwards. How about that? I'm willing to give you stumbled.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Does that work?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. So here's what we're going to do. Because we've gone for a bit, and it's been a pleasure. Unfortunately, we went like I said, 40 minutes or so of just delays, just kind of, technical details. We still don't know, folks, why the microphone did not hear me. It hears me here, it's fine, but
yeah, I don't get that.
C'est la vie. But Greg, so I think we've had an interview here. What do you think?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So, what do you want to promote?
Well, hopefully the mid-July, Mittens 2 is going to be on Kickstarter.
Okay.
And if not, maybe August. So we'll definitely figure that out.
Do you have a pre-launch page?
We're still working on it. So
okay. All right.
I did tell him that I kind of wanted it done in May, but things happened, and he like the artist Josh is like the one that's making the graphics and stuff for it. So, and he's doing other work too. He's doing his own work and other people's. So I get that.
That's fair. Fair.
Yeah. I think I think I said like mid-July or the first 2 weeks is like I would like to have it up so I can like start promoting.
Totally. So how can people find you then?
SeerNovaComics.com.
How do you spell that?
SEER NovaComics.com.
There you go.
We have a whole subscription thing on there. We don't really have subscribers yet, but we're trying to do that. We just have to add more stuff on there.
No worries. We have SeerNovaComics.com. And dude, good luck. Honestly, it sounds like you're well on your way, however you go from here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got Nova Nation, so you can sign up for that. It's $4.99. So it's the cost of a comic book. Then there's the premium one, but there's nothing really special at that yet.
Okay.
And then we're on YouTube. We're on Twitch, but we're not really on Twitch.
This is on Twitch.
Yeah. Facebook, Instagram. Instagram is where I usually post first, and then I do other things. Twitter, except I'm not really on Twitter that much because it's Twitter. I'm on Hive, if that's still a thing. No. And
So to everybody listening to this, all right, so I'm going to wrap this up saying this. I normally would be pushing things, but again, I'm on Zoom, not my typical channel. Like I said, we had a really weird thing. I'm on patreon.com/justjoshing podcast. You can go. I'm dropping the second chapter of my novel, Corey the Night Witch, literally in about 2 hours. Right. If you're interested, that's $1 a month to get to read 2 chapters a month. Or if you want to watch the new shows, the shows that are what the show's going to look like post 1000 when I'm on the road, you can do so now. There are episodes up as we speak for $5 a month. You can actually watch those and get the story as well. So $1 if you want some literature, $5 if you actually want literature and a good video each and every month. So go definitely check that out. I'm selling my comics on eBay for the next month, folks, as I'm wrapping up my time here. So there'll be 3,000 books. More books have dropped since we've actually literally started this podcast. The first few hundred will be done tonight, and then as I get to 1,000, hopefully by Wednesday. That's the goal. The first 1,000 by Wednesday. I'm insane, but that is where we're at. So for everybody watching, everybody listening, if that's why you want to support the show, support me where I'm going, you can do that here. Check out Greg's stuff. Go to SierraNovaComics.com. Check out all the work he's done. And that'll do it. I have a guest tomorrow afternoon. Casey Mardell is going to join the show. So for everybody watching, everybody listening, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Stay inspired. Keep shining in the dark. And I'll see y'all next time.